YouTube.
How the bloody fucking heck are you? We are down here in the freezer cold at the Booty Base today to deliver you with an absolutely fantastic video to show you 6 incredible booty building exercises that you can do not just at home but anywhere. Because you see, this video is going to be fantastic for those of you who might be training at home and might not have access to weights, but bodyweight glute training is a fantastic tool to be able to use. So we are going to be breaking down 6 of my favorite exercises which you can do anywhere and everywhere to be able to start getting them gains. Now, before we get into the actual exercise demonstrations in this video, I want to quickly just give you a little bit of insight as to why I actually selected these 6 exercises, because they're split into 3 different categories. You see, when we train the glutes, we need to be doing a variety of different exercises, whether they're body weight, whether they're weighted, to make sure that we can actually hit the glutes effectively. So there are 3 different ways in which we can really target the glutes. Brittany, if you don't mind coming and explaining and demonstrating with me, we have hip extension exercises where we spread the hips back and then we push forward and all the tension is on the squeeze, and we really focus on that tension and we get a little bit more of the upper glute, and this really targets the whole glute, but a little more of the upper glute. Then we have exercises where we put the glutes on a really big stretch and all the tension is down when they're deep in hip flexion, and this targets a little bit more on the lower glute as well. Now, standing up here for me, Britt, and then lastly we also have our abduction exercises where the leg is lifted out to the side, and this targets more that upper outer portion of the glute all through the glute medius. So what I did for you is I selected 2 different exercises from each category so you can bundle this together and have a great workout, and also just know how the glutes actually work for you to be able to create proper programs with these exercises or whichever other exercises that you like. All right. We are kicking things off with the old faithful single leg hip thrust. Now, Brittany is incredibly strong, and so are a lot of the girls down here at the Booty Base. I can hip thrust 300 kilos for 10 reps. Britt, you can hip thrust 200 kilos. But trust me when I say, you don't need a lot of weight to make hip thrusts hard, because all you need to do is just do them on one leg, and it makes it extremely more challenging. For me, I know that like 20 reps of a single leg hip thrust gets like an incredible burn in my glutes, and I program that down here for the girls a lot. So let's quickly go into our actual setup and execution for the hip thrust. So what we want to do is make sure that the box is sitting just below our shoulder blades, and what we want to do is, if you regularly hip thrust like this, you want to actually bring your feet together so we can center the actual working leg. From here, you want to take the non-working leg off, hinge all the way up, and really focus on that squeeze at the top, and then coming all the way down. So this is one of the exercises where we focus on the squeeze and get a little bit more of those upper glutes. Now, one more thing before we move on is the execution of a single leg hip thrust is a little bit different to how we do a regular barbell or double leg hip thrust. You see, with a double leg hip thrust, I promote 2 different types of ways of performing them. The first is a hinge where we come all the way up and our body rocks up and down off the box like a board. But the second one, which a lot of people actually prefer normally, is doing a glute scoop where you keep the chin really down tucked to your chest and make the movement come down from more just below your ribs. But Brittany, do me a favor, come into a single leg position for me, and then now try and do a glute scoop rep. And it just looks weird, it just feels weird. So when you are performing a single leg hip thrust, perform them with that hinge and really push those hips up as high as you can. Ordinarily, you might like tucking your chin to your chest when you do your regular hip thrust, but when you do single leg, it's actually nice to let the head come all the way up with you and then all the way back down. Now, just quickly, we're going to go through 3 different variations from beginner to intermediate to advanced to how you can actually progress this to make it easier or harder. So, if you can't quite handle a lot of high reps with a single leg hip thrust, you can do what's called a B stance. So we still use the working leg pretty much the whole time, putting about 70 to 80% of our pressure through here, but the non-working leg, we're going to put the heel around about in line with the toe and then just perform our reps like so. And this gives you a hell of a lot more stability to be able to control the movement. And this is a really good variation variation for beginners who can't quite manage to get at least 8 to 10 quality reps with regular single leg hip thrust. The second, I'm not gonna show because it's just single leg hip thrust. Majority of people can handle these pretty well, anywhere between about 12 to 20 reps. And if you want to take it up a notch, we can do a single leg 1 1/4 hip thrust. So coming all the way up and then down just a quarter, back up and then all the way down. And this adds that additional time on attention at the top of the rep when those glutes are firing hardest. And trust me when I say, these absolutely burn. If you can get about 10 to 15 reps of those, you're looking pretty damn good. And if you want to take it up a notch even higher, then we can do a single leg double elevated 1 1/4 hip thrust. And this is probably one of the hardest bodyweight exercises you can do. So Britt coming all the way up, squeeze, down a quarter, up, yeah, a little bit less on that quarter, all the way down, pause on the ground, up, 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 squeeze, a little bit higher, there we go, down a quarter, up, all the way down, go one more, why the bloody fucking heck not, up, down a quarter, squeeze, and all the way down. Believe me when I say, those motherfuckers burn. The next exercise is another boom squeeze exercise, which is phenomenal at isolating the glutes and really great at really targeting that upper subdivision of the glute max. And it is a single leg reverse hyper. Now, down here at the Booty Base, we actually have a single leg reverse hyper machine, and we actually normally do them over there, sometimes weighted, sometimes with bands, but you can just do this body weight and set yourself up on whatever you have, whether it's a couple of booty boxes, whether it's a bench, whether it's a fucking couch at home, it doesn't really matter. And when we do our hip thrust, we're doing what's called a closed chain hip extension, and this is an open chain hip extension because Britt's feet are off the ground as she lifts her legs up. Now with this exercise, we want to be looking to make sure that we're coming all the way down and keeping that leg nice and straight if we can. The straighter the leg is, the longer the leverage is and further away, so we get a little bit more tension on the glutes. We also want to make sure that we don't go too fast. If you fly your leg up really quickly, then you create too much momentum from the bottom and the entire rep just kind of isn't as effective. Now also for our execution, we want to look to not just kick our leg straight up like this with the toes straight, but rather come into a mildly externally rotated position. So turn the toes out and kick up and slightly back to the side. And that runs a lot better with the actual glute fibers, which flare down to the side like this. Now, one more thing I want you to really focus on with this is not just lifting your leg into the air, but simultaneously pushing your hip down into the bench. So you're actually gonna feel it a lot more. So rather than just actually lifting your leg, you're actually driving that hip down, kind of like you would be doing in a back extension, and really squeezing hard on every single rep. Now, the beginner version of this is really just performing reps, probably in a higher rep range, anywhere between about 12 to 20. If we wanna make things a little bit harder, we can also do those 1 1/4s coming up, Brit, squeeze, down a quarter, squeeze, and then coming all the way down. And then lastly, the last variation is going to require a partner, and you can do some manual resisted eccentrics. So coming all the way up from Brit, I let Brit do it on the way up, and then she resists me up as I push her leg down, 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 down. And these are great because normally Brit's only really getting a lot of tension here at the top of the rep. But now on the eccentric, she gets to fight me through the entire range of motion. So she's getting tension the entire time, even down there on the stretch. How's it feel, Britty?
It feels good.
It feels goddamn good. Now we are moving away from exercises that squeeze the glutes and coming to exercises that come down and, stretch the glutes. And this would not be an epic glute video without one of the most loved and hated exercises of all time, the Bulgarian split squat. Now, you can definitely get really strong at Bulgarian split squats and use a lot of weight, but trust me when I say, bodyweight Bulgarians are fucking hard, and a lot of the time when the girls join the Booty Base, they struggle to even just perform 15 bodyweight reps. Of course, they get stronger and stronger over time, but first thing we need to do is teach them how to do them. So, let's learn. What we want to do is make sure that if we want to target the glutes, which I'm sure if you're watching my channel you probably do, you want to take a nice big step away from the bench. From there, elevate the back leg onto a box or a bench or whatever it might be, something that's around about, or it should hopefully be lower than the back of your knee of your working leg. Now from here, what a lot of people do wrong is they put far too much tension in this back leg and they really press down there. You do not want to do that. So, only tippy toe the back leg, lean forward from the hips for a few reasons. 1, we keep all the tension in this front leg, and that's where we want it. 2, we prevent any arching of the lower back, because if we're up like this, we can jam into the lower back when we perform our reps. And 3, the more we lean forward, the more we get to stretch that glute. Now lastly, what we want to do is when we go down, we don't want to think about going down in this direction. Nah. We want to think about shooting our hips back and down and gliding it backwards, trying to almost think about getting this back leg down to the ground and then coming all the way up. It gets a really big stretch right here on those lower portion of the glutes, and it's also definitely going to be working your quads a lot as well. So if you feel your quads on this exercise, you're not broken, you should. But one quick little tip to actually feel your glutes more is you can drive your knee out and really start to activate that external rotation of the glute. And this is a little trick that I use to be able to help girls fire up their glutes and actually get that mind-muscle connection so they can feel it, because now their glutes are on that stretch, but they're activated a little bit more by just driving that knee out into that external rotation. Could you feel that more, Brittany?
Yep.
Yes, you bloody fucking could. Now, just quickly going through our beginner, intermediate, advanced, we have just regular Bulgarian for our variation. Then if you wanted to get a little bit more range of motion, then you can pry yourself up and you can actually do these on a deficit, so you can actually get down a little bit deeper into your reps, down and up. And then lastly, if you want to really make these hard, you can do a deficit Bulgarian 1 1/4. So this time we add the extra quarter at the bottom, because that's where the tension is on the glutes. Ouchie mamas, bitch. We on? Yeah. All right, well, apparently we're rolling. And our next exercise to stretch the fucking glutes is a little bit more of an uncommon one. You might not have seen this exercise before, but it is absolutely fucking epic and very challenging. And we're gonna be doing a skater squat. So Brittany, if you don't mind demonstrating the skater squat. And Brittany, do you mind telling the people how they should kind of think of a skater squat, like you just so beautifully told me?
Well, the initial movement.
Yes.
Think of it as an RDL.
Exactly right. So you'll notice that this. Sorry, you go, Britt.
No, you go.
So this movement is very similar to a lunge, but we're not going to let our back leg touch the ground. However, when we initiate the movement, we don't really want to be using too much of the knee. We want to really be pushing back with the hip, just with a bent knee. So we're really driving back, and then as we drive up, we don't use the back leg. So come all the way down for a bit. You want to have a pad or something here for your knee to be able to rest on, and then driving up. And again, notice how Britt is leaning forward to emphasize that stretch on the glutes, keeping a relatively vertical shin. It can come forward a little bit, and just try not to rock back as well, Britt. See how you kind of rock back and got that little bit of momentum? Go one more for me. So leaning back, touch, up we go, perfect. So all that weight is centered forward like that. Now, that is honestly pretty fucking hard even as it is, but there are a few ways which you can make things easier or harder. So the first thing is just to be able to come down, do the eccentric, and really go nice and slow, all the way down. Yeah, you can go a little bit faster than that, but go nice and slow, and then just actually help yourself up with the back leg, so that way at the very least you can control the eccentric portion. Then if you have a partner or just a TRX or anything to hold on to, you can actually just get a little bit of assistance, and this way you get that little bit of that help on the way up. And again, try to use it as minimal as you can. On the way down, you probably won't need much help, but just on the way up, you might be able to pull yourself up just a little bit. Now, there is actually one more way which we can make this actually easier, and it does involve holding weight, and it doesn't have to be a weight plate. It can be anything that weighs a couple of kilos. And with this one, we're actually going to be lowering down and extend. Now, keep it in. As you go down, you're going to push the weight out and away from you, and this acts as a bit of a counterbalance. As you come up, you pull it in. If you want to make it harder, then you keep it in at the chest the whole time, and now the weight is actually going to be more challenging than it would be if you were to actually push it out like we did on the other variation. So as for our reps, look, anywhere between probably 5 to 15 reps. Jerry, what are you doing, man? Anywhere between about 5 to 15 reps is pretty good with these. Really focus on nailing the control and the tempo of the movement, and you'll really get that nice burn in those lower glutes and a little bit in those quads. All right. Well, the next exercise makes some people squirm just like Brittany did when I came in for a little bit of a cuddle. Which is unfortunate, but that's okay. And we're going to be doing a side-lying clam raise. Now, we're moving into our abduction movements and exercises which target more that upper outer portion of the glute as we lift our legs up to the side. Now, this is one of the harder body weight abduction variations we can do, and a lot of people struggle to do these even for anywhere between 10 to 15 reps. So, Brittany, if you don't mind laying down and demonstrating, oosh. So, what we want to be doing here is laying down, and the way I like to explain things is to be able to get into position, I want you to first lie completely straight through your grip. And then from here, what I want you to think about is someone just came through and they just, boom, punched you in the gut, just like that. How would you do? What would you do? You would coil up and you'd be in this position. Okay, now that is pretty much a perfect starting position for where you want to be. We want to be making sure that we have our elbow directly underneath our shoulder, nice big bend in the hips here, and then hopefully having something nice and cushiony underneath our knee. Because what we're going to be doing now is pushing our hips up by driving through this knee. Do not drive through the foot. Some people do that. It's very weird. Drive through the knee, push up while also extending the hip forward and opening the top leg. As we come back down, act like you got punched in the gut again. Pushing up, driving into the ground, abducting all the way up, coming on back. Now this top leg is actually working as well. This leg down here is lifting us up. This leg up here is kind of doing its own abduction just up against gravity. What we want to look for at the top of the rep is a little bit further forward, our hips stacked on top of each other like this, or at least somewhat, and trying to get maximal separation. You can bend this leg, you can keep it straight, doesn't matter, and trying to be stacked on top of each other and separating these legs as much as we can with our elbows directly under our shoulder. We're also going to get a fair bit of work through our actual core as well and through our obliques. This is kind of like an advanced side plank. Now, as for our beginner variation, this is sometimes how I teach it because it is a little bit hard to sequence that top leg coming up. So sometimes I get the girls to start with their foot on here, and as they push up, we just externally rotate the top leg. However, as you can see, it's a little bit awkward and a little bit weird to get that that up and down top positioning here with the hips. So you can start with this. Some people like it, but it does feel a little bit weird. However, it is a little bit easier than the harder variation. Now, for our other variation, we can't actually film here, but I'm going to get Jerry to play this video of Britt doing the exact same exercise. And this is where we do the hip banded side-lying clam raise. And as you can see, Britt has all of that tension on the hips because now she's abducting up against gravity, but she's actually getting active hip extension against that band and really squeezing hard, not just up and down against gravity with abduction, but also back and forth through hip extension. And even though these are harder, they actually feel nice sometimes because they actually help you to groove where you need to be. They pull your hips back and they give you something to fight against. So that is an extremely hard variation and one of the hardest glute bodyweight exercises you can do. Hey, where's Brittany go? Oh my God! It's wild Brittany! All right, the last exercise to really help to build your booty, and we're having another abduction exercise. This one's probably a little bit more common, however, very commonly misperformed, and also probably my favorite abduction exercise and probably one of my all-time favorite glute exercises. These fucking burn my glutes so much. So Brittany, come and lay on down because we're doing a side-lying abduction. Now, quickly, I'm going to go over what a few things that people actually do incorrectly with their technique. And what they do is they lie down straight and they lift their leg straight up to the side like this. Now this isn't that bad, but as you can see, as we follow the line down here, we're coming through and it's kind of working more on the side of Brittany's hip. Now she's going to get a little bit of glutes with that, but not really as much as we'd want. People butcher it even more by coming and turning the toe up, and now it's turning into a hip flexor stretch. Or they butcher it even more by bending the hip like this and making it even less effective for the glutes. So we're going to correct all of those things. Instead of just lying directly on your side, what you want to do is actually turn your toe in and even turn your body in a little bit like this. Some girls like really leaning over, some other girls like just kind of being just slightly to the side, so you can experiment with that. But now, as we come into this internal rotation and we drive up, you can see, boom, Britt's glute actually fires up right away. and we're really working on that upper subdivision of the glute max and the glute medius with these. And we want to try to maintain that nice straight leg the entire time, and with these, it's much better performed in a higher rep range. They are a light exercise, but they create a lot of isolated tension and a lot of metabolic stress. So we really want to be going for the burn on this exercise, shooting for anywhere between about 20 to 30 reps. Now, this is actually the beginner variation and the easier variation. We also make these harder with bands and all the rest, but this is a body weight exercise tutorial. And I haven't included any bands yet, so I'm not going to start now. But Brittany, come on up here because we can make things harder by doing a extended range side lying abduction. Now these are even better. And you know what, let me quickly grab one more box. Okay, if you really want to set this up optimally, you don't need to, but it's nice to have something else for your other leg to kind of rest on. It just feels a little bit nicer. Now we have it into the exact same position, except now we get to take our rep a lot further than where we normally would. So now not only are we getting that big stretch on the glutes, but we actually get to come and take it down onto an extended stretch and get much more range of motion. And this actually makes it considerably harder to perform. If we want to make it even harder again, then we can do this extended range and do a 1 1/4 up, down 1/4 up, and really get that extra tension on the squeeze. And then lastly, if we really want to make it hard, if you have a booty buddy available, then we do our manual resisted where Britt pushes up and I drive down, 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 down. You're actually fucking pretty strong, Britt. All the way down. And again, normally Britt's only really getting a lot of tension up here, but now she gets it through the entire rep. Now, if you are going to do these, I recommend keeping your hand here on the upper hip to make sure that they don't start rolling out, because it's very common as they start lifting, they want to kind of cheat and then bring other muscles into place. So keep your hand here and then drive, drive, drive. And you're done.
Hey.
So there you bloody fucking have it, ladies and gentlemen. 6 absolutely beautiful bodyweight exercises which you can implement into your training regardless of whether you're training at home or at the gym. These are fantastic. And if you have access to weights, and you can always just add weight to these movements as well. And you can do a weighted Bulgarian split squat, or you can do a weighted reverse hyper or hip thrust or whatever it might be. But the foundations of the training never change, and it's all about just finding movement patterns that are difficult enough to actually challenge us with whatever stage we're at, whether it's the beginner or whether it's the harder variations, whether it's lower reps, whether it's higher reps. As long as you're pushing hard, getting a good burn, and training close to failure, then you are on the right track. And I might need you to track somewhere else right now as well. I might need you to go and track your way on down the comment section, because we got a lot more videos coming here on this beautiful little YouTube journey together for all my wonderful subscribers and all you lovely ladies lurking out there. So I might need you to do me a favor. I'm gonna need you to like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and ladies and gentlemen, Brittany Burke. Brittany, it's fucking cold work. You know what they say. YouTube,